Hi, everybody. This is Jahaira Barrientos. I'll be talking about the subject that I have in my interview. The person that I interview is actually a biological female who identifies as transmasculine. He is 39 years old. Has a master in social work and has been a strong advocate for housing insecurity or against housing insecurities between the LGBT youth. He's actually very outspoken here in South Florida about this issue. He's very passionate about it. And actually, when I asked him for the interview, he was in Los Angeles in a conference, and I'm very grateful that he allocated some time to do the interview with me. Now you realize that I'm calling him because he actually uh, accept the pronouns he, him, and they as well. One of the things that I was curious about is the fact that he addresses himself as transmasculine, and he does find the term trans men to be offensive and to some extent be misgendering. So I asked him about that, and he said that for him that the word man or man equates toxic masculinity, violence, and a lot of things that go against his femininity. This actually became a little bit more intriguing to me, and I asked him to elaborate on it. And he explained that through BDSM or the kinky world, he was able to embrace both aspects of himself, his masculine side as well as his feminine side. He also said that when he engages in the play that BDSM allows people to do, he finds the submissive position to be most agreeable with him because it does allow him to express those areas that we as a society consider to be feminine. He was very insightful in how society describes domination as a masculine trait, as a men's trait, especially here in the United States, and how submissiveness equates femininity. So he thought that that was very interesting for him how to discover that. He started talking more about the kinky world and how it helped him and develop his identity, embrace his personality, and come to peace with all aspects of himself. He also started talking and explaining how the world of kinkiness really operates. A lot of times when we're not familiar with it, we see all these violent acts and we try to figure, okay, why someone is accepting this abuse, because for us it looks like it's an abuse. But he explained that actually when people engage in a scene, there is a vast negotiation that goes before the scene starts reenactment. People start creating the boundaries. They outline safety measures. They could use a word or a gesture that indicates when the scene have become a little bit too much, when the submissive individual have reached their limits, and the dominant individual needs to stop. And he emphasized the importance of this because DSMN is not only just a fantasy, but it's also, according to him, a way for people to navigate or resolve some unrealized or unrecognized trauma. He recognized that the kinky world could be a useful tool when we're dealing with sexual trauma. He said that the submissive is the one that holds the power. The submissive individual is the one that determines when the scene will stop and when the scene will continue. This gives the submissive a tremendous power, a tremendous opportunity for them to regain control especially if they have some traumatic sexual or violent event in early life. BDSM allows individuals to have experienced this trauma. They can give themselves the power that was stolen from them when they were not able to make a choice. He also explained that BDSM not only can be therapeutical when it comes to traumatic events, but it also could be very useful to deal with emotions or resolve emotions behind any kind of physical trauma or scarring or accident or even physical limitations. He said that it has been a very powerful tool for him and other people in the community on dealing with all sort of unresolved issues and things that have keep them away from themselves. One other area that he discussed, which I found it very interesting and actually ignited a lot of questions, because I have noticed in the past that the trans community has been welcomed in the kinky community, especially those within the LGBT community. So he explained that by engaging in these themes, by creating these fantasies, not only have the trans or non-binary community, when I say trans, I also include the non-binary community in here. The themes give them a sense of validation, a sense of realization of things that in the real world, or actually not the real world, actually, because it is the real world, but in the everyday world, they are unable to explore. They are unable to express those things. And that has been a great venue for this community, the trans community, to find themselves and realize themselves. But then I also wondered, what is in the other side? Why has the gay male in particular embraced this community so openly? And one of the things that I was discussed and actually I found in one of the articles is how this community, and I'm talking about the kinky community within the gay community, has extreme measures or extreme ideology of extreme masculinity. And those who identify as transmasculine, in some way they reinforce this. They present this extreme masculinity that is very well accepted within the gay community. Now, how does this really interact with the individual? The interview really was very interesting to me and opened a lot of questions and make me, because there are so many things that intersect in here. Not only the gender identity, it's a gender identity that forced this individual or guide these individuals to enjoy these activities, or is it some kind of trauma that they have not been able to work with? Also, why is it that, besides what I just stated, the gay male community is so welcoming of the trans masculine and trans men, but yet in the other hand, they still have some resentment towards the trans women or trans femme individuals? Could it be that this idea that masculinity is the higher form of expression of a human being? And those individuals who were biological or are biological males who then transition to become female, for somehow have abdicated that position of privilege and are looked down upon. Those are some interesting, and I would love to explore those things. Another aspect of BDSM becoming or being used as a therapeutic modality when we're dealing with sexual traumas. Subject describe how the kinky world becomes indirectly a therapeutic modality where people could work with not only the sexual trauma that they might have had as a childhood, but also with physical impairments like early ejaculation or premature ejaculation, as it's called, when it comes to female, not sustaining moisture in the vagina. And they expressed that it is very unfortunate, according to him, how touching another individual is taboo, and how a lot of times this is seen as a violation, when in reality it could be part of the therapeutic process when we're dealing with individuals who are facing any kind of trauma. He brought this also to the light when he spoke about physical scarring or accident, and how they can be worked through the scenes in the kinky world. One aspect that he actually emphasized was the importance of the negotiation process, which I mentioned before. And he said it's very important that the people that engage in this scenes, they have a clear understanding of where their boundaries are. Important is the aftercare. So he pointed out that after the person is being spanked or whipped or whatever it is important that the dom comes and then caresses the area. That in itself not only physically gets the blood flowing and kind of holding the pain, but it creates, it sends a message to the brain of the individual that yes, you have some pain, but I still care. And he presented this scene or this this example. He said, remember when you were a child and you were spanked and you're there crying, and then you're sent to your room and nobody comes over and tries to console you and tell you, hey, everything is okay, you'll be okay. So he says that the process of creating a scene must have a clear understanding of what the aftercare will be. So how will this apply, or would apply, I guess, to me as a fit therapist, as a social worker? I think it just really expands more my understanding. I knew that the human connection is important. I knew and always fought the fact that most of the times in our career, instead of human services, the human part of it is really very weak. But I did not have a clear understanding of how BDSM could be helpful. I suspected that it could be. I always wondered what kind of avenues could be opened when we integrate these practices, especially when we're dealing with people who have trauma based on sexual abuse or any other kind of traumatic events that might scar them and might now be a conflict for them. It was a very interesting interview, and I have more questions now than when I started. And for some reason, I feel that I will be investigating more about this and learning more, because there's a lot of things that open up for me. Like I said, this world interacts with gender identity as we know it today. And how will creating scenes like this could be useful in dealing with all sorts of trauma. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.